How's it going, my peeps? It is now time for the Extreme Rules 2013 results / highlights and review video. I'll go over the full results of the show, give you guys some of the highlights in my opinion, and in the end give you guys my overall thoughts, my review on the show. So it all kicks off with the pre-show, and you actually have a booth of Wade Barrett, Mick Foley, Titus O'Neil, and the new interviewer. I don't remember what her name is. I think it starts with an R. Anyways, they're, talking about the matches, saying what their favorite match is, what match they're looking forward to the most. In the beginning of the pre-show, they show a bunch of highlight videos for the upcoming matches, and the stream froze on YouTube for a moment, but then actually I went on WWE's website, and the stream there worked. So, the Miz's match actually started at, The Miz versus Cody started at, 7:50 or something, and it got, 6-7 minutes. Decent match. Miz wins with the figure 4 leg lock. And then once the show kicks off, the first match was Chris Jericho versus Fandango. And the match was pretty good. And actually, what I liked is the ending. The ending, I predicted the ending. If you go watch my Chris Jericho versus Fandango prediction game video that I posted up today. And look at the ending of that match, where I hit the codebreaker in midair. That's exactly the same way the match ended on Extreme Rules tonight. Chris Jericho hitting the codebreaker on Fandango, tried to jump on him from the top rope. And Chris Jericho wins the matchup. Like I said, pretty decent match. At some point in the matchup, Chris Jericho climbed up the top turnbuckle. Fandango was on the outside. He jumped from there onto Fandango. And then after that, it was, before that, Matt Striker was interviewing Sheamus about the strap match to get his thoughts on the strap match and how he could beat, how is he going to beat Mark Henry when Mark Henry, Sheamus goes on about how Mark Henry's 200 pounds more than him and he's bigger, but he says that, and he also says, Mark Henry pulled 2 tractors, so he's strong, but keep in mind, tractors don't fight back, Sheamus does. And then he says tonight Mark Henry's going to find out how extreme the Celtic Warrior can get. And then you have Kofi Kingston versus Dean Ambrose in, that was also a good match. And Kofi Kingston actually hit the Trouble in Paradise, but you had Dean Ambrose on the apron. So once Kofi hit the Trouble in Paradise on him, he just fell outside the ring. So Kofi goes outside, rolls Dean Ambrose back in the ring, pins him, but Dean Ambrose gets his... He doesn't even grab the rope, but he kind of, gets his fingertips on the rope, so the referee breaks the count. And in the end, Kofi Kingston misses another Trouble in Paradise. Dean Ambrose was kind of leaning on the ropes, and Kofi went for the Trouble in Paradise. Dean Ambrose ducked, so Kofi got his, got caught up in the ropes, fell. Dean Ambrose hits his finisher, the Snapmare Driver, or whatever it's called, and gets the victory, wins the United States Championship. The rest of the Shield members come out to celebrate with him, put him on their shoulders, and what was a pretty cool moment. So, and actually during the matchup, the Shield wasn't present. They just came back, after the match when Dean Ambrose won. The following match was Mark Henry versus Sheamus. It was a strap match. To win the match, they have to touch all 4 corners in succession. Anyways, as far as the match goes, I thought it was okay. I didn't think it was bad. Anyways, it seemed during the matchup, whenever, let's say Sheamus hits 3 corners or 2 corners. If he hit 2 corners and then Mark Henry stops his momentum, takes him down, the referee would then, the lights to indicate that Sheamus, touched 2 corners would go off and he'd have to start off again. Same goes for Mark Henry, of course. Anyways, at some point in the matchup, you had Mark Henry he had Sheamus on his shoulder in a power slam position, and he just walked with Sheamus on his shoulder like that, and he touched the corners. So he touched 1 corner, but what he didn't realize is once he touched the corner, Sheamus also touched that corner right after. And then Mark Henry touched another corner, and then another corner, I believe 3 corners, until he found out that Sheamus touched, the corners as well by looking at the lights. If both the green light and the red light were, bright, so that means 2 people touched him or whatever. So Mark Henry realizes that, so he takes down Sheamus from his shoulder and hits him with a headbutt, I believe. Anyways, towards the end of the matchup, you had Sheamus touching 3 corners. Mark Henry tried to stop Sheamus from touching the 4th corner, so he was in the way. Sheamus tried to jump over Mark Henry or something like that to touch that corner, but was unsuccessful. Mark Henry grabbed him, and then he went for the World's Strongest Slam, but Sheamus slipped off the World's Strongest Slam position, hit the bro kick on Mark Henry, and touched that last corner. So while I did predict Mark Henry, I wasn't too surprised that Sheamus won, since it is a strap match. It's not just like a regular matchup. So yeah, Sheamus wins the matchup. And then he had a backstage segment where you had AJ and Kaitlyn is... AJ's actually on the phone with Ziggler, and Kaitlyn interrupts her, and she tells her, I heard from Vicky that you didn't want to have the match at Extreme Rules for the championship because you were dealing with, you know, the Dolph Ziggler's concussion, whatever, and she says she thinks that that's an excuse or something like that. And anyways, eventually, AJ calls Kaitlyn a pig, and then Kaitlyn snaps and starts attacking AJ. They fight. Referees come to break it up, and also Tamina and the Bellas are like watching and not doing anything. And yeah, that was pretty much it for that segment. And then you had the I Quit match, Jack Swagger versus Del Rio. It was actually not that long of an I Quit match. It was pretty quick for an I Quit match. Anyways. So the finish was kind of interesting because you had Jack Swagger putting the ankle lock or the Patriot lock onto Del Rio, and he had it locked on for a long time. The referee asked Del Rio like twice or 3 times or something like that if he wanted to quit. Del Rio said no, or he didn't say I quit. And Ricardo had like the towel, the white towel, and he was, you know, asking Del Rio whatever. He wanted to throw it in, but Del Rio's like, no, don't throw it in. And then Zeb Coulter comes like right next to Ricardo and tries to attack Ricardo. Ricardo ducks, and when he ducks, he drops the towel. So Zeb grabs the towel and throws it in the ring. The referee sees that, so he assumes Ricardo threw it, and he announces Jack Swagger's the winner. So Jack Swagger's the #1 contender, and I was like, oh shit, Jack Swagger actually won? I was surprised at that. But then, actually, another referee comes up to, you know, the referee, and he says, yo, I was watching in the back, and Ricardo did not throw that towel, Zeb Coulter did. The referee then actually watches a replay, and one funny comment from JBL is, JBL says, since when do we watch replays? And also, the funny thing is, the referee was actually watching the replay on a small TV monitor or PC monitor or whatever, small screen, instead of the actual Titantron. And then he saw that, you know, Zeb Coulter threw the towel in instead. So he says, okay, as long as Del Rio can get up and wants to continue, then the match will restart. So Del Rio gets up. He restarts the match up. Jack Swagger right away goes for Del Rio's ankle or his leg, whatever. Yeah, he works on that. But Del Rio gets the cross arm breaker on, locks it in. The referee asks Jack Swagger. Jack Swagger was about to say I quit. He kind of mumbled. He was about to say I quit. He was like, I quit. And then he started getting up from the cross arm breaker, and then Del Rio locked it on once again. Or, you know, Jack Swagger did not successfully get up from the cross arm breaker. Eventually he says I quit. Del Rio wins, new #1 contender. And then Josh Matthews was backstage with Ryback for an interview about the Last Man Standing match. To sum it up, Ryback says John Cena's a liar, he's telling the truth. John Cena says he never, you know, the whole never give up thing is a lie or something like that. And then he says tonight John Cena is not gonna get up because he's not gonna let him get up. And then following that interview was the Tornado Tag Team match between Team Hell No and the Shield's Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins for the Tag Team Championships. During the match, Roman Reigns actually hit 2 spears, I believe, on Kane. And the ending of the matchup, Roman Reigns held up Daniel Bryan in a torture rack position. Once he had him in that position, Seth Rollins got up on the top turnbuckle, and he hit a jumping knee drop onto Daniel Bryan while in that torture rack position. Went for the cover. Actually, Roman Reigns went for the cover while Seth Rollins stopped Kane from breaking the cover and got the victory. So the Shield all win their championship matches. After the match, Dean Ambrose also comes out to celebrate with the Shield. They all hold their championship titles. Pretty cool moment. I'm happy all of the Shield members hold championship gold. And then Big Show faced off against Randy Orton in an Extreme Rules match, and I thought it was a good match, actually. At some point in the match, Big Show put up 2 steel chairs and put a ladder on top of those steel chairs. He then put Randy on top of that ladder, and he was going to go for that second rope splash on Randy. But he was on the ladder, but Randy got out of the way, so Big Show, fell on the ladder. And Randy actually hit 2 RKOs in this matchup. First RKO, Big Show kicked out at 2.5 or whatever, or 2. And then he had a second RKO. This time, I think it was on a steel chair, but Big Show was already getting up, which I thought was kind of surprising. So once Big Show was, already slowly getting up from that RKO, he wasn't completely down. Randy was just standing there looking at the Big Show, and then you knew what was coming next, the punt. But the thing is, these past couple of months, whenever Randy Orton has been going for the punt, or he's attempted the punt, each and every single time he's tried to do it the past couple of months, he's always missed. So I was like, you know what, I'm betting Randy's gonna go for the punt. Big Show's gonna get up right before he hits it and knock Randy Orton out with a WMD. But actually, Randy connected with the punt. I was so surprised. I was like, oh shit, Randy actually hit the punt. We haven't seen that in a while. So he hits the punt on Big Show, goes for the cover, and wins the matchup. Yeah, pretty happy with that matchup. Following match was actually the WWE Championship match. I was thinking maybe that was going to be the main event, but it was actually the match before the main event. The main event, obviously, the steel cage. So yeah, Ryback versus John Cena. It was a good match too. This was a good last man standing match. They fought everywhere. They fought in the beginning in the ring, outside the ring. In the ring, actually, John Cena set up a table, and Ryback was going to shell shock him. But John Cena got out of the shell shock, hit the attitude adjustment on or through the table. And that was actually a table inside the ring, not the announcer's table. I know in like almost every single last man standing matches that John Cena has, he hits the attitude adjustment on the announcer's table or through the announcer's table. This time was different. And eventually they fought in the crowd. Before they actually fought in the crowd, John Cena speared Ryback through the barrier, the ring barrier or whatever. Or the crowd barrier. The same exact spot Roman Reigns usually spears his opponents to the outside. And then after that, they fought in the crowd. The crowd actually, Ryback grabbed kind of like a barrier, another crowd barrier, but it looked much more, a lot sturdier, a lot, heavier, whatever. He took that, and he hit John Cena with it, but John Cena eventually got up. And actually, John Cena put Ryback through another table when they're on the crowd. He beat up Ryback a little bit, put him on a table, and then above that table was like something he could climb on. So he climbed on top of that, but it wasn't very high. It was actually not that high. Maybe as high as like the first turnbuckle or the second one. Maybe the second one, I'm not too sure. And he jumped from it, hit a splash on Ryback through the table. But Ryback eventually got up. John Cena then resorted to the fire extinguisher. He used that on Ryback, spraying him with it, and then hitting him. He hit him with it, but Ryback, it didn't fully connect, so Ryback didn't really sell it. He got up pretty quickly afterwards, so John Cena hit him once again with it, and Ryback once again got up at like the count of 9 or 8. John Cena then went for the attitude adjustment, maybe off the stage or something, but Ryback got out of it, and then he grabbed John Cena in a sort of a spinebuster slash spear. It was a spinebuster position, but he ran with John Cena in that position. So he had John Cena's spinebuster position. He headed towards the Minitron, or part of the stage. I guess you could call it maybe the Minitron of Extreme Rules. And he speared him through it. So they both went through that, and there was, a bunch of like electricity or whatever. And then we couldn't see them anymore. They went through that thing, and the ref was trying to find them or see them. I guess he couldn't see them either. So he went around the stage, backstage. The camera also went backstage. And then you saw like John Cena. He was laying down. He was down on like some sort of, I don't know, something. Some sort of metal square or something like that. He was on top of that. And Ryback was on the ground too, down. They were both down. But eventually Ryback got up, or actually the referees helped Ryback up. They weren't counting anymore at this point. And they started putting a neck brace on John Cena, and Ryback was helped up, and we didn't see him after that. And the camera was just focusing on John Cena, then putting him in a neck brace, and then putting him on a stretcher. And that was it for the matchup. I guess that qualifies as a no contest. So, yeah, I guess it's a draw or no contest. which probably means there is going to be, most definitely means there is going to be a rematch between the two, maybe at the next pay-per-view Payback. Anyways, up next was the main event, the steel cage match between Brock Lesnar and Triple H. And they actually fought outside the ring or outside the steel cage before actually getting inside the cage. Once they're inside the cage, the match starts. Anyways, during the matchup, at some point, you had Triple H kind of leaning on the steel cage. So Brock Lesnar attempted a running, jumping knee onto Triple H, but Triple H got out of the way, so Brock Lesnar went knee first into the cage fence. And from that moment, Brock Lesnar was selling the knee like the entire match. Anyways, Lesnar hit an F5, Triple H kicked out, and also Triple H also hit a pedigree, but that was, towards the end. Actually, before that, Lesnar told Paul Heyman to bring him a steel chair, so Paul Heyman brought him a steel chair from the outside, put it into the ring. They used the steel chair a little bit, and, the match went on, and towards the end, you had, Lesnar went for another F5, but his, because he was selling his knee, Triple H went after the knee. And then at some point, Triple H, he grabbed a sledgehammer. He actually was hiding a sledgehammer on top of the steel cage. So he grabbed the sledgehammer. It was all like silver, the same color as the steel cage. So he was going to use that, and he does eventually use it. But actually, before that, before I talk about that, Triple H locked in the sharpshooter. During the matchup, Triple H locked in the sharpshooter and the figure four, working on Lesnar's knee because he realizes it's hurt. So during the sharpshooter, Paul Heyman gets in the ring to try and stop Triple H from making Brock tap out or something. And Triple H pedigrees Paul Heyman in the process. Triple H then hits Brock Lesnar with the sledgehammer, also hits him with a pedigree, goes for the cover, but Brock Lesnar actually kicks out. And eventually Paul Heyman gets up, and he low blows Triple H. That's when Triple H was about to use the sledgehammer once again. He low blows Triple H, and then Brock Lesnar with the sledgehammer. He hits Triple H with the sledgehammer. And I thought maybe he was going to go for the cover, but he doesn't go for the cover. He just stands there for a while, then slowly goes up or close to Triple H, picks him up, gets him up for the F5, nails it, goes for the cover, wins the matchup. So Brock Lesnar wins the steel cage. He wins the main event. Then Brock Lesnar gets out of the cage. Paul Heyman raises his hand on the top of the stage while Triple H is getting attended to by the medics. And the show ends with the medics, with Triple H and Triple H walking away to his music. And that was it for the show. So, what did I think about? Damn, this review is pretty long, 17 minutes. This is like one of my old reviews. My old review videos were like 20-minute long reviews, 24 minutes. Maybe even one was like half an hour or something like that. Actually, I'm not sure, but they were pretty long. Anyways, what did I think about the show? Highlights in my opinion, definitely the Shield winning all the championship gold. Definitely enjoyed that. And, in general, I enjoyed almost every single matchup on the card. I enjoyed, the Shield matches. I enjoyed the Last Man Standing match. It was a good show. And also another highlight was Randy Orton returning with the punt. Bringing back the punt. Yeah, if I have to get a rating for the show, I'd give it actually maybe an 8 on 10, or 7.5. You know what, I'm going to give it an 8 on 10. So, yeah, in the comment section, tell me what you guys thought about Extreme Rules. Did you like it? Did you not like it? And what was your favorite match of the show? So if you guys enjoyed this video, you can click that like button down below. Feed me more likes, I'd really appreciate it. With that said, I'm out, guys. See ya.